What's going on, guys? Welcome back to JT's Mixtape, episode number 33. And if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please give me a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. I have got a podcast sponsor. I was happy to partner with Modern Roots Life, and this is really cool because it's a Christian company. Modern Roots Life, they provide natural health supplements, natural salts, beef liver, magnesium, copper, lots of things. Natural, third-party tested supplements. And I think for me, I often complain about being very tired and having a bit of brain fog trying to do everything that we're trying to do. So I just started my regime. And so I'm excited to see how it works out, because I think, like you guys in this community, that we don't really want to go to the doctor anymore. And I'm not saying you'll never have to, but I'm saying that if I can be more healthy, then I'm doing my best to try to do that now, physically and spiritually and mentally. So if you guys want to check out Modern Roots Life, check out the link in my description. People often ask how they can support me. Well, I think it's really cool if you can support me by supporting people that support me, and you get something in return. And obviously being healthy is a pretty good return.
Come closer, my child.
JT, did you just say 33?
That's right. It's the 33rd episode. So yeah, of course we got a little something planned for that. But yeah,
Bro, I almost feel like you're, you could be a Freemason, JT, bro. I mean, like, bro, we should just cut out episode 33 and just skip to 34. It's just, because all the suspicion, all this is like...
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like those old buildings where they didn't have a 13th floor.
Yeah,
unlucky, so we're just gonna skip right past. But we already did episode 13, so
yeah, well, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it's just a number then.
Yeah, Lord willing, we'll skip episode number 666.
Right.
If we get that, if we do that many episodes, that'd be awesome. Actually, I'm pretty impressed that we've already done 33 of them. I mean, that's quite a... Like I said, we've been pretty consistent. I don't often try to pat myself on the back, but I think I could pat me and Brian on the back for basically releasing a JT's mixtape every week for the last 33 weeks. And of course, now they're going to say he said it more than one time, then so he's definitely in the club. But
awesome.
You know what? We're just going to rip that Band-Aid off, and of course, because it is this number episode, let's watch a video about why that number is so significant.
Oh, I'm so down. Let's expose this.
33 is known as the master teacher. Jesus died at 33. 33 is associated with influence. So I'll give you some examples of 33. One of the Wright brothers was a 33 life path, founded flight. Edison figured out electricity. So when it comes to 33s, they're the trailblazers in life.
Highest rank in Masons are 33.
So what they're trying to tell you, when water is below 33 degrees, it freezes. But once it goes above 33, it becomes a liquid form. After it hit that 33rd degree, you become enlightened.
That's amazing.
33rd parallel has most of the world's banking?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That's insanity. Like, why? What are the chances worldwide they all chose there?
Because 33 is the number of influence. So if you want to spread influence with your financial currency, you want to have her under certain, just like there's certain lay points all over the earth, and you have pyramids all over.
So you're the first person to know about this. They talk about, I've read this in this was hard to find, ley lines, energy points that crisscross the world.
Correct.
And that's where car accidents happen, on the crosses. And they would build churches on certain ley lines.
But mostly pyramids. All the pyramids in Giza are all there. All the biggest pyramids in the world are not in Egypt. They're in Bosnia. They're under the ground.
That means they've never picked a hill and said, go build a temple of worship there. They would pinpoint where to build.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was obviously, there's, of course, the one reference was what most people know is the 33rd degree of Freemasonry. So that's why we like the 33 always comes up. But also they left one out. I guess there's 33 vertebrae in your,
Your back.
Yeah,
The
in your back and your
sacrum
neck.
or something like that. They talk about the sacrum and the descending of your spine and the nonsense oil thing that goes down.
Yeah, that gets into the real new agey thing. But there's also the ley line stuff is interesting. Yeah, because I know I can't remember. It was probably a couple months ago. We showed a video about the 33rd parallel, and it was referencing stuff kind of in the Southwest through, I believe, like Phoenix into California and a lot of weird stuff. I mean, it does seem like that there's enough things built on that parallel that it does seem like it's for a reason. Don't you think?
You know, I don't subscribe to numbers much, so it's like I know they believe in their numbers. And then we left out the whole portion where it's like they use 33 as a code word in the news. And so like anytime you'll be like 33 deaths, like all that stuff, you know what I'm talking about? Where it was like,
Did you say I'm gonna have to bleep you out now?
Did I?
Well, I guess I said this will be on the uncut version, but I mean, obviously, we can use the big boy words.
Okay, well, do you know how they said that? Like, there was 33 deaths, 33 deaths. Have you seen the clip where they cut all the 33s? Have you not seen that?
I mean, I know when I was first getting on TikTok and I was learning a little bit about this stuff, I knew just enough to be dangerous. Every now and then when I was bored, I would just Google and then hit the news button, and I would Google like 666, or I would Google 33, I would Google 9/11, and you'd be amazed, or you probably wouldn't be, but I mean, a lot of people would be amazed how often you see headlines in the stories where, the numbers, I can't imagine that's a coincidence that these numbers come up randomly.
Well, they use them as code. And so I actually know a guy who was a part of, he was a part of a band that was part of the Illuminati, and he like broke away from it to be a Christian, sort of, we'll say. And, not the best example, we'll say. But he broke away from all this stuff. And he was telling me about how when he was a part of it, like their songs that they would write in his band were all based off of things that they would hear in the news. So he would say this thing happened in the news, and he'd be like, oh my gosh, like this happened in the news, we have to write a song now, and it has to be released on this date for this thing, for this stuff. Like the other band members would like, no, he wasn't a part of the stuff, so he would just like the dog just jumped in. He was not a part of this stuff, so he would just be like, okay, this is weird. And so he would just like follow it, and he would do it. But they were like, hey, we've got to be a part of this band, and we have to do in accordance to whatever is being told by these signals that were being put out through the news. So there was like messages going out in codes, in words. So I know that they put out codes, and for those that can interpret those codes, like these codes mean something. It's like a code word that means something. And 33 to them is like go. It means like it's us doing it. So like if you ever see anything in the news that says 33, it is literally it's a Masonic connection. They're literally saying we're the ones that are doing this, so that way the other people that are aware don't have to freak out. So if you see something like 33 tankers exploded on the side of the road, know that it's part of the agenda. Like always, it's always a propaganda thing. And so if you say like 33 soldiers just got killed, blah blah blah, no, that's fake. You can know that that's fake. Like anytime you see 33 of anything like that in the news, almost assuredly it is a planned agenda operation tethered to the Freemason agenda, tethered to the people that are above them.
Yeah, I mean, also I believe that with numerology, much like horoscopes and astrology, I believe that there is some power in that stuff. But I think a lot of it is the fact that if you believe in it, like everything else, if you believe in it and thus you do something because you believe in that, right? Then I think that that's probably more likely, because I've noticed since I learned a little bit about numerology, that I see certain numbers. And I think there is something about us as humans where it's like when you do learn a little bit about it, it's like, oh, well, that's my lucky number, so I'm going to do this thing because I saw this number. And I think as a Christian, obviously, don't ever do something based on the numbers.
Well,
I understand
that's actually
I
that's called
understand if like
interpretation.
what's that?
That's called interpretation of omens. So you're actually not supposed to do that. The Bible directly tells you that's what an omen is. So people don't know. A lot of Christians don't know this. So a lot of Christians will come to me and be like, bro, I see 1111 everywhere. Oh, it's my angel number talking to me. Like, blah, blah, blah. I see this. Okay, oh, I see this on the clock all the time. It's like, bro, that's called an omen. You are interpreting an omen. So a lot of times people will make decisions in their life based off of interpretation of omens. And so they'll be like, oh, this sign came up and I saw the sign. You know, the Bible literally says this. It says, do not plant your field based on the bird landing in it. And you're like, well, what's that mean? Well, back in the day, if you understand that concept, what it was referring to is basically when the birds, the farmers wouldn't plant their field until they saw a bird land in their field. So they would interpret the omen. That's an omen. And this is what it's referring to. And they would wait for a sign or a sigil or something to then do living their life, right? To go on living their life. And so a lot of Christians get caught into this, and it's actually a form of Christian mysticism or Christian witchcraft, really.
That's superstition, but it all comes back to the exact thing you're talking about. That's what I was saying. I kind of get it if you're like, you're gonna like the bill is like $6.66, and you're like, I'm just gonna give you $6.70. You know, I'll just give you $7. Seven's a good number. I mean, obviously there is godly numbers, and I think that you would be just not perceptive if you didn't notice the numbers in the Bible, like the godly numbers.
Sure, I mean, God does do things in patterns, like with 40 days and 3 days. It's like he has a pattern, 7 days,
12.
Yep.
There's 70. There's lots of numbers in the Bible. 3 days, 3 nights. There's all those kind of numbers. And I think that's why
operates in that.
Yeah,
and he does tend to have that pattern of things, and it's ways that you can kind of subtly identify that it's the Lord in some capacity when you see these kind of things. But demons try to hijack it, and they hijack it by doing things like 13 and 33 and all those other demonic 11. These are all numbers that are hijacked numbers that are just one off or one extra more than like, you know, holy numbers.
Right. Yeah. That's what I've always kind of wondered too. Yeah. I mean, we do know that 6 is the number of a man, and it's not because of the beast. It's because man was created on the sixth day. Right.
Yeah. And so, yeah. Mm-hmm. But so like people see these kind of, I guess this episode is going to be about numerology. It seems.
No, we're not going to spend too much more time on it. I mean, I just think that again, like this is something for people to be aware of, and obviously be wary of. That just because you see a number, like I said, do not make your decisions based on that. I mean, because I think that's the same way that like horoscopes. Because I do believe in godly astronomy, where God set these stars in the firmament for signs. That's literally what it says in Genesis 1:14. That's the first thing it says. He put them in the firmament for signs.
And for seasons.
Yeah, but the first one mentioned is signs. So I believe that it says in Psalm 19:1, it says that God, this is like where God, the day to day, night to night, the sky pours out knowledge and speech. And I think it's talking about the Mazzaroth. It's talking about that. But you can interpret things that God is doing through that. But I mean, it's not to dictate your life path. And I think that's when it gets into idolatry, because you're going to the creation rather than the creator for whatever you're doing, whatever your purpose is. And obviously that's the opposite of walking in faith, or it's faith in something besides the Lord.
Well, it's no different than what witchcraft is, or interpreting of like your horoscopes, right? It's divination, okay? It's when you are divining an answer out of something of the mundane. This is why it says they turn to the creation and worship the creation instead of the creator. Okay, this is what it's referring to. It's literally it warns about this in the biblical context. It literally says they turn to the creation. You are divining an answer. This is called divining. It's like you look at a number and you divine. You literally try to pull God out of something mundane. That's called divination. That's literally the definition of what it means. It means divining an answer, divining an understanding, divining whatever it is you're trying to get out of it. So like the numerology people, like, just a side note, people comment on like the videos. I've seen comments like, "Oh, you made the video stop at 1:36
Right.
in second, bro." I can't even start the stream on the right time. Okay, like, dude, I don't even control that stuff. So, like, people try to make up like there's some secret code. And numerology, I'm going to tell you right now, dealing with demon possessed individuals that I deal with like weekly, the most demonized people, I'm going to tell you right now, the most demonized people, all of them, they love numerology. They love it. It's like their thing. And so if you go talk to a schizophrenic person, go talk to him and ask him about numbers. Watch like he's going to be like, blah, 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 all the numbers and this and this means this, bro. Talk to any demonized person and they are in love with numbers. So I don't give numbers credence. I don't give them credit. I don't care. I don't pay attention to them because I know that the occult pays attention. They pay a whole lot of attention to them. They actually give you signs they give like signals out through these numbers or whatever. And it says a perverse generation seeks for a sign. So if you're constantly seeking for a sign, like, God gives signs. You don't need to like seek for a sign, okay? God gives you the signs. They're obvious. Like, God sends angels. God sends the words. Like, when you start seeking things, you're divining. You're trying to divine an answer. And that's against the biblical context of the Lord. You're just supposed to love people, guys. Like, love people. It always comes back to love people. Everyone's trying to seek for answers, and you miss it.
I think that ultimately, especially in the context Jesus says it in, it's because it's like the person who's looking for a sign. It's like they've already got something they want to do, and they want confirmation of what they've already decided they're going to do. You know what I mean? Like, I already want to do this, and I think that's why horoscopes are typically like, oh, I'm going to find love or riches today. I'm going to do this, or I'm not going to do this. So that's what your heart wants. So of course you go to the fallen, the stars, and those are the ones who are going to tell you what your life path should be. And obviously, again, that's the opposite of faith. And the interesting too is what you said is that the people who say, oh, you stopped this video is X amount long, and therefore now I'm wary of you. It's like, you're the one who noticed that. And you're the one who's making decisions based on this number that you saw. So, like, that's you, right? Like, because if you're accusing somebody like Brian, who obviously, again, like, he's not planning these things. He's not concerned about where he's stopping, and he's stopping when we have to go. And you notice numbers, and so all of a sudden now you're wary of somebody because you saw the number above what he said or above what he does. And that's what I'm really aware of Christian truthers who have like the gematria calculator saved in their browser, and they put every word and everything into the gematria calculator, and it's like, do you understand? Like, you're as superstitious into numerology as these people are, if that's what you're trying to do. Like, because truly, you will find numbers if you go looking for them. Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing. It's like that. When you're aware of them, yeah, you will see them more often. But I mean, again, they were there anyways. But it's probably good sometimes that you don't notice all the numbers. But yeah, when you really do your best to say, oh, well, this is in this gematria calculator, and then I put it backwards, and then I used this date, and I added this, and now all of a sudden I got the mark of the beast. I got secret clubs. I got all these kind of things. And then in the gematria calendar, this number also equals this word, and you're like, do you see how you've kind of lost the plot a little bit when that's really not how discernment works?
Bro, the gematria calculator was created by the occult to laugh at you, to make fun of you guys, just so you guys know. Like, whoever made it, that gematria calculator, that is probably somebody that was like literally paid by Freemasons to put it in there to laugh at you, to make fun of people trying to figure stuff out. They think it's hilarious.
Well, I mean, I guess to
or it was
play the other side a little
demons,
bit. We do know in the Book of Revelation, John talks about calculating the number of the number of the beast.
Yeah, but that was an obvious calculation. He was
the number of his name, but outside of that, the Bible never tells you to go looking for numbers by calculating them. So I think that, I mean, I sort of get it, but at the same time, like when you're trying to find the gematrias of the 33s and then the other numbers and everything else, it's I think you've lost the forest through the trees. Like, you're like you're as lost as everybody else. And again, I think that you are, especially when you ascribe evil motives based on numbers, when that other person did not do anything.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know how evil that sounds if you really think about it?
Whatever that is, like it was probably not done with like the heart of the love of Christ. So I would stay off of it. I just wouldn't even give it. He was probably influenced by demons, whoever made it. Either way, whether they realize it or not.
It's Kabbalistic for sure. So I want to switch gears because I'm done talking about numbers. Yeah. It gets boring after a while. But what's interesting, Brian, is that my favorite part of last week's show was the stuff about Lincoln, because I was just like, we were just laughing about that story and his tomb and how many times he was moved, and it was just, it's
surprised he wasn't moved 33 times.
right, exactly, exactly. Good call. But the interesting thing is, like, so I was making a reel today, and I was putting everything together, and then something just popped in my head, and I thought, you ever heard that old riddle? Who's buried in Grant's tomb?
I haven't.
You ever heard that?
I think it's subtly familiar, but
it's kind of an old school reference. But it was kind of like that. I remember hearing that as a kid, and it's probably like, obviously it's kind of, it's antiquated. People don't really say that anymore. But I always remember that, and it was like, okay, so Ulysses S. Grant, who's buried in his tomb? And I kind of thought, that's a weird riddle, because obviously because I think it was meant to be obvious. Oh, Grant's buried in Grant's tomb. Like, who else would be there? But in this research, I'm like, who's actually buried in Grant's tomb? Because that's a weird question. And
what is this riddle? I've never heard of this riddle before. What is it?
Well, let's show you.
Figure of speech or something?
I'm gonna show you this video, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
This is President Grant's tomb, except he isn't buried here. Grant's tomb was dedicated in 1897 and is the largest mausoleum in the United States. It was designed after the mausoleum of Halicarnassus, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The tomb was entirely funded by public donations and was one of the biggest fundraising campaigns in history at the time, raising $600,000 by more than 90,000 people. For a period of time, his tomb attracted more visitors than the Statue of Liberty. On the lower level, you'll find Grant's sarcophagus, where he is entombed, not buried, and it is surrounded by busts of his comrades in arms. Behind his tomb is a Chinese memorial where his temporary tomb once stood before the current one was built, and it was a gift from a Chinese viceroy who developed a friendship with Grant during Grant's world tour. At one point, his tomb was actually so neglected and vandalized that there was a threat of having the president and his wife Julia reburied in Illinois, so the National Park Service ended up paying $1.8 million in the 1990s to restore the memorial and bring it to its former glory. So, on a technicality, the answer to the age-old question, who is buried in President Grant's tomb, is really no one, as he is entombed and not buried. Thanks for watching, and follow for more history.
What a weird phrase. Like, that's who's buried in President Grant's tomb and is not entombed because he's not buried, he's entombed.
That could be viewed as a joke. I was looking it up and I was trying to find the origins of it, and it was kind of popularized by, there was a show called You Bet Your Life, and it had Groucho Marx, like one of the Marx brothers, and so he used to ask questions, and that was supposed to be an obvious one, and the riddle's supposed to mean that sometimes people just neglect the obvious. But I was like, I said, so is that the first person who ever said that? No, he's not the first person who ever said that. But so it came earlier, which, if you think about it, so that sarcophagus, whatever, and that mausoleum, that was clearly not a mausoleum. That thing was a friggin' temple, like everything else.
Clearly a temple.
And it was almost just like one of the 7 wonders of the world. They got people to make public donations to build that. Yeah, no, I'm not actually
From
donating
China?
to the Chinese. We'll get to that, but so that said, it was built in 1897. So by the time like Groucho Marx, I want to say that he was like, I think they were popular like in the 30s, 40s time period. That's really strange that he wasn't the first person to say that. So who was the first person and why?
That's very, very obscure. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, was it really just a riddle, or was there something else going on? You know what I want to do is I want to go there and blow up that tomb and see what's inside.
Don't say that. Don't say that. You're going to get the Secret Service out there. Well, it was funny that it was saying that it was, once again, just like Lincoln's memorial tomb or whatever he was, wherever, like, supposedly he's buried. They said that that thing became dilapidated and it was deteriorated and they had to move him because... So this also...
Let's open the tomb and see what's inside.
Well, I mean, it's possible that those sarcophaguses that are up outside of it, that are on the floor level, I mean, maybe they are buried in there, but what if something's buried under it? What if there's tunnels under it? What if there's catacombs under it? Well, hold that thought. We'll get to that. But yeah, that whole story that they build, again, a Greco-Roman temple to house the drunken president Ulysses S. Grant. It was like a famous alcoholic. Why of all presidents does he get something like that?
I don't know, but where's Obama's tomb gonna be like? I wonder what his.
You keep talking about that. He's not dead, Brian. He's not dead yet. But I mean, well, put it this way.
I just imagine it to be like a big castle. They're gonna build a castle for him, and then they'll have Roman. They'll put Zeus's face on it or something. Like,
the story of the United States is so ridiculously inconsistent because we're told that the founders wanted limited government, and they rebelled against a monarchy, right? And to have a government for the people, by the people. And then they deify all these men who were just presidents. I mean, it's kind of funny to think about it like in today's day. You can see why nobody would get a mausoleum that's literally a Greco-Roman temple right now because half the people in the country say that guy sucked, right? And we're not so impressed with presidents anymore. Like that, the shine is off. But it's but did people ever really love the president? Because you really think about somebody like Ulysses S. Grant. I think it's pretty safe to say that about half the country, the southern half, probably didn't like him a lot.
Do you think if Trump died, we would build him a castle?
I don't think that's obviously, to me, it's just a lie. I don't think they ever built these guys these kind of things.
That's what I'm getting at. This is
but
so
I would
absurd.
say that, that's what I would say is that, like everything else that's old world, it was repurposed. So yeah, is it possible that they took his dead bones and the dead bones of his wife and stuck them in that place and stuck a couple busts of his general buddies in there? Yeah, I think that part of the story is true. But heck no, they didn't build that thing. Again, it's weird. So I think they said he died in 1880 something. And then they didn't finish constructing this until 12 years later.
12 years. They built this amazing structure out of solid stone.
I think it's a little weird in these narratives how often they're moving people's graves.
That's totally weird. That's totally weird for sure.
Right. It's like a common thing. Oh, here's where he was buried first. With some kind of Chinese writing on this old tomb because he visited China once.
What? It's so absurd. It's so absurd.
I don't remember hearing about
the Chinese president or whatever was like, "Oh,
Viceroy.
I heard he died. The Chinese viceroy died. Oh, I heard that man died. Let's send him $1 million for him to build a tomb." Like
I said, this narrative is just silly. But I mean, yeah, you look at it, you see how impressive it is. It's like that. Again, that would be, if you put that in Washington D.C., it would be, looks like it'd be on the level as the Lincoln Memorial, the Lincoln Temple, the Jefferson Temple, and some of the other ones. But yeah, again, what's going on? What's going on if we're wrong? I just think if it doesn't make sense to do it now, then I don't think it makes sense at all because, yeah, I mean, was it a really great time? I think there was a big stock market crash and all kinds of things like in the early 1890s too, supposedly, and everything was burning down. So, yeah, let's lavish this dead guy
in the middle
with
of
a temple.
In the middle of like chaos.
I can't even.
Man.
You know,
comical.
that leads us to the thing I was really wanting to talk about this week, and we've already touched on it a little bit, about where are all the dead bodies at? What about the moved graveyards? Isn't that a little weird? So I saw a really interesting TikTok about this, and it's about 6 minutes long, so we're not going to play all of it, but I'll play maybe the first couple of minutes because he has some excellent questions.
We've all seen the viral video of the guy that's a part-time gravedigger that says you'll never see a new cemetery being built, and everybody's saying that that's proof of the Matrix. Well, buckle up, let's go for a ride, because I did the math after it piqued my curiosity. So we'll start with some raw numbers, and for everything I have here, I only used Google's quick search results to keep it even and fair. So, that being said, our current population is 340 million today. At our current death rate, that's 7.7% dies every year, for a total of 26,180,000. Well, currently, we've plummeted in the last 25 years to 39.4% buried. That's 10,314,920 a year. So keep that in mind, but let's go back further because cemeteries are never new, they're always old, right? The most you can fit is 1,250 people in an acre. The American Planning Association says there's currently 140,000 acres. So let's go back even further. So from 1800 to 1900, 80 million Americans died. And from 1900 to 2000, 270 million Americans died. That's a total of 355 million people dead. Well, depending on which schematic you want to use, it was anywhere from 83 to 92% were buried opposed to other methods. I kept it at 80% just to, be heavily conservative and see where this goes. Well, it gets a lot more interesting now because at 80%, that's 284 million graves. At 140,000 acres, it's at best 170 million graves. So we already got 109 million people just chilling out, like stacked up dead somewhere, waiting to get buried or are buried and still have to bury new people every day.
Yeah, so the math on that, Brian, I did the math too. So at 1,250 people times 140,000 acres, I think it was 175 million spaces in the graveyards that are available in the United States. So he said between these certain years, and he used 80% based on the number of people being buried, there would have been over 280 million people that would have needed to be buried. And then at the current rate, you'd have it to bury 10 million people every year.
That seems pretty, it is pretty suspicious. I mean, maybe that's why they switched over to cremating a lot of people now.
Well, no, I guess he's saying that they do cremate a lot of people, but he's still saying that certain amount get buried still. So that's the thing. It's like, so if you think about it, if you only have, let's just say just the current rate, based on 140,000 acres times 1,250, that's 175 million. If each year you had to bury 10 million people, that thing would be over capacity in 18 years. Right?
I suppose, yeah. I mean, unless the graveyard sites just keep growing, I'm sure.
No, that's what he's saying. Is like he's saying like that's based on the current number is 140,000 acres of graveyards in America. And I've often said I have not seen a new graveyard in my lifetime. I've never heard about a graveyard being too full to accept new bodies too. So you would think that there would have to be a lot of them that would say, nope, no vacancy here. So what would you have to do? You would have to take out new plots of land in order to continue to bury people. But they don't do that. So where are the bodies?
Buried on top of each other.
Well, no, they do that as well. I mean, they do that, but I guess he's saying like that there's still a certain capacity of how many you could do that with. Right?
Maybe the graveyards had like a certain distance, and then at a certain spot they just like kind of skip every other space in between. I don't know.
Quit trying to explain it for them, Brian.
I'm trying to understand it.
Clearly,
I'm trying to.
Math does not math.
It is unusual.
I think that what a lot of people have said, I believe this to be true, is that if you look into the world population numbers, a lot of people believe that the books are cooked. There's not as many people as they say there are. Because if I heard, I can't remember exactly what the source was, but it was something like that. If you go based on, if you took every city in the world and you just got the population numbers from every city, I think you only got about 2.5 billion people based on the city numbers. So then them telling us there's 8 billion people in the world, it would be crazy to say that you could make up the difference in rural areas, right? Like you would never be able to find enough country people to fill up because the majority of the people live in the cities. I mean, that's why if you look on, I don't know if you watch like election night and electoral map, all the states with the real big cities are the ones who have all electoral votes, right? It's because the majority of the people in the country are in big cities. So there'd be less people outside the big cities, for sure.
You know, I saw something really interesting that I saw about them burning people. This one video of this person making calcium carbonate or some kind of calcium byproduct. And they take the bodies of dead people and I think it was like they wash them in like a bath, and they drain their flesh out, and then like they take the bones and then they crush up the bones and they make like calcium something or other that's a byproduct that they sell. And it was like I don't know if it was from the people that get cooked because they burn them, or if it was from and they took the bones from those victims or individuals that have been like cremated, and I think they take the bones, or it was like an acid bath thing that they did to the bones afterwards, or I forget what it was, but they definitely took the crushed up bones of humans and turned it into a calcium product that they are selling back to people. It makes me think of like Soylent, because I wonder if like
the Soylent Green stuff,
bro. Like what if they're like the vitamins that they're giving everybody really are just like dead people that have been like crushed up into different vitamin things. Bro, I wonder.
You know what I just thought of? I thought about like, so obviously everyone kind of references that Soylent Green thing that happened in that movie from the 70s about them feeding people the dead. But what's interesting in the movie The Matrix is when when Neo sees the fields of that, and Morpheus is explaining it, that the dead are liquefied and they're fed intravenously through these tubes to feed people. I hope that's not where the bodies are. Maybe it's like do we even want to know where all the bodies are going?
True.
I mean, I don't put it past these people with what they would or would not do because you know what? I'm gonna hope that's not true. I want to get into like possibly where the real place that a lot of the bodies could be stored. And I'm talking about the catacombs. Now I'm going to share this video, Brian, but I'm not going to be able to share the whole thing because, gosh, I love this guy's videos, but every video he makes is over 6 minutes long. So maybe we'll watch the first 3 minutes.
The Catacombs, the darkest secret on Earth. An underground complex 300 kilometers long with 6 to 7 million bodies, and we're supposed to believe it's because too many people got sick and hungry? Or might they be hiding what remains of the old world? And that's just the one in Paris. These catacombs are all over the world. Just a theory, entertainment purposes only. So, why is there a labyrinth of corpses under the city of Paris in the first place? History tells us in the late 18th century, so many people were dying from disease and famine that they started running out of cemetery space to bury them. Bodies were piling up so much they were causing odors throughout throughout the city, so King Louis XVI ordered his authorities to fix this problem. In 1785, they uncovered an old underground tunnel system called the Tombe Issoire quarries, which were used as limestone quarries hundreds of years earlier to build famous sites like Notre Dame. They repurposed these tunnels to relocate all the bones from the overpopulated cemeteries over the course of about 12 years, and did so with an air of secrecy. You know, to not raise panic among the citizens, of course. The site was officially called the Paris Municipal Ossuary and eventually began to take on the mythical name of the Catacombs. The first thing anyone notices about these subterranean graves is the intricate, almost ritualistic design of the human remains. The bones weren't just stashed away in large heaps as one might expect would be the case for a disposal project as this one, but were organized in a decorative fashion, aligning femurs with skulls along the walls, geometric patterns, a throne of bones, and even this famous centerpiece known as the barrel, which, according to sources, were all put in place by the average 18th century quarrymen. They were led by official quarry engineers like Louis Etienne d'Arthurie, but still peculiar to see. In fact, the architecture was so nice that in 1809, the catacombs were even open to the public for tours, which only the rich could afford. Ritualistic sites involving the deceased attended by only the elite class? Some things never change. Now, why on earth would a literal mass grave be so intricately decorated for presentation in a borderline victorious manner like they were celebrating something? But no, they were just moving some bones out of the way, nothing to see here. Let's do some math. 6 to 7 million bodies moved over the course of 12 years as claimed means 57 to 67 bodies moved every hour, night and day for 12 years straight. That's one body, which contains several bones, moved into place in carefully designed patterns every minute, day and night, non-stop for 12 years, which could be possible given a sizable workforce. Just quite impressive to say the least, especially given their incredible design. But the question does arise, where do you get 6 to 7 million bodies in a city with a population of just about 600,000 at the time? That's 10 times the population of Paris in the 1780s, and even about 3 times Paris's population today. I understand these bodies have accumulated over centuries, but the population was even lower in previous generations. Not to mention, even most bones do decompose and become extremely brittle within 100 years, so where did all these remains come from? Disease and famine is the main explanation we're given. Even Great Britain was having the same problem of overflowing cemeteries around the same time. It's almost like there was an old world here before us that got wiped out in a short period of time, and they needed a place to hide all the bodies.
Bro, that is very, very fascinating, and it makes me think of that Bible verse, where their bodies lie, the vultures will gather. Really makes you think about that, because I don't know, sounds like a whole lot of people fell over dead to me.
Yeah, the so that video again, that was less than half of that video. I encourage you, maybe I'll put a link in there to watch the rest. But he goes on to chronicle way more catacombs all over the whole world, and that's the crazy part. A lot of them are under these old cathedrals, and so yeah, like the math does not math. That he said it was possible. He said it was possible that they could have done that. That reminds me of like the pyramid math, right? Where they had, like, if this pyramid was built in 20 years, that means they had to work 365. They had to be laying stone like every 2 minutes, because that many bodies, and in the way they're intricately placed, all the bones, there's no way you're moving that at speed. Even if you were doing it in a sloppy way, you could not do that. And of course, my mind always comes to, if a person falls over dead, they're not just bones. They're not neat bones. So obviously you have to have some process to get rid of all the flesh on the bones.
Well, yeah,
and have those things so clean like that. Well, yeah, maybe the birds, but
the vultures gathered and the bones were left.
I mean, I honestly, I don't really think that I could believe any kind of alternative theory or mainstream theory that says this was just overcrowding of graveyards, because again, we would have that problem. Again, as we just exposed,
dug up all the dirt. Dude, they'd have to dig up every one of those graves.
Well, he's basically saying like these people are not, there's too many people to bury, but then they do something that's way more elaborate than dig holes in the ground for bodies, right? Wouldn't that make more sense? That obviously, again, this God's green earth is pretty big. you couldn't have just taken these bodies out of town and started burying them in holes. Instead, you did something that, I mean, as far as I know, we do not do today, because that is a lot of work to do whatever that is supposed to be. So to me, it makes, I mean, what he said at the very end of that was exactly what I believe, and basically what Brian was hinting at. This is like stuff that happened. This is Armageddon right here. This is like this is the bodies that were left after Armageddon, because what else would this be? Is that clearly, again, as I already questioned today's population numbers, that I think are way elevated. If you look at the population numbers of what we're told in those times, that makes no sense. So where did the bodies come from? I think it's possible that, yeah, there's your reset point somewhere in there. These were the people who lived before Jesus returned. And then the people afterwards, maybe when they were digging cities out, they were finding all these bones and they had to do something with them. Or maybe it was something that was meticulous, like angels or saints did this.
That's what I'm thinking, maybe.
Because, yeah,
maybe like who would want to do that?
Right. It was somebody who took care in doing that. And yeah, I mean, you could say that this is morbid. I mean, because obviously death to us is morbid. But to the normal person, yeah, like that, you know, that the elites aren't stacking poor people's bones like that. They wouldn't give a crap about those people dying. They would just burn they would burn the bodies, right? I know that they actually say that we're not going to even get into like 6 million and that kind of stuff, but that to incinerate bodies, it's like that's a lot of work too. So yeah. I don't know. The whole thing is, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you can look at that and say this wasn't revelation or something like that.
Bro, it totally looks like it was like it had to have been a mass event, and then something cleaned the bones off. Something ate the bones clean. Because, like, the bones don't just, like those bones, to have a body decomposed to where it's just bones, it has to be exposed to the atmosphere. Like, not buried underground, necessarily, like, for a while. Like, you have to be exposed, and then the decomposition is, like, things eating all the flesh off the bones. Like, it's not just, like, gonna be buried and then turn to bones.
Yeah, they would have had to be boiled, I bet, right? Like, to get them that clean.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I mean, seems pretty sus to me. I'd say it sounds like it reminds me, it kind of gives me vibes of Pompeii, you know? And like, that's what it kind of reminds me of. Pompeii, a bunch of people maybe fell or dead, and somebody was like, hey, let's just clean all these bodies up, I guess. We're not going to have them here. And everybody just got moved.
It's really dark. But yeah, it was interesting that Ricardo and I, the last time we kind of touched on this a little bit, because we were talking about that Rings of Power show. In the very first episode, the Galadriel character, she's giving a monologue about this epic battle between the elves, men, and Morgoth in the evil. And they were showing that, yeah, where she was stacking up this helmet, you know, and it was all the elves had this certain kind of armor. And when she was placing all these helmets together and they pan back and there's this mass of them. And obviously, again, they're all stacked so neatly. I mean, it seemed like that's what they were saying. Because, like, again, why would you do that? I mean, obviously, these are art, you know, film, TV, it's art. They're obviously trying to get you to feel a certain way. And that's the same kind of way when you see that, like, that when you look at those catacombs, there's obviously something about it that's just, like, like, my mind just goes, what in the world? Like, we can't process things like that because we've never seen anything like that. And we can't even understand it.
Bro, I just checked something. You know what I thought of? I was thinking, like, if these were the bones of people pre-Jesus, like, let's say Jesus came back, right? So we knew that there was a little bit of, like, you know, for those that watch Ancient Angel stuff, if you watch the Ancient Angel podcast, they talk about the Nephilim hybridization of people like the Canaanites being like dog people and stuff, right? So I would suspect that there would be animal bones, animal-looking bones mixed in within the catacombs. So I just asked. It says, are animal bones found within the catacombs? It says animal bones, particularly those of canines, like dogs and jackals, have been found large quantities in the catacombs. These catacombs located beneath, these are in the Egyptian desert, are to have served as burial for mummified animals. Okay, bro, this is interesting. So,
what if there's like cynocephaly skulls up in there?
That's what I want. That's what I'm so curious about, bro. Like, I want to go to the catacombs over in Paris and just kind of like look around, be like, see if we can find any like animal, like see if we find like hooved feet, you know, like see if there's some hooves in there mixed in with those leg bones. I bet you would find some. I almost guarantee you would find some.
It's just it's so wild. It's just so wild just to think that stuff. I mean, again, I don't think it makes any sense. It obviously makes way more sense than what we're taught is that the Romans, with a very small worldwide population, did things that we don't even understand how they did. But you know what's funny is what's often attributed to the way that ancients did things was what, Brian? What do they normally say? How did humans do that?
Oh yeah, well the aliens did it.
Well, no, I'm saying like that the mainstream will say, oh well, they had lots of workers.
Oh yeah.
They always say that they just had a massive workforce, but you're already saying that the population is way lower then. I want to say that if you look this up, the first century, supposedly there was 60 to 100 million people worldwide. That's what they say. Of course, how could they ever know that? They couldn't. Unfortunately, we don't have the census that Joseph and Mary were taking part in. We don't have the full census from when they went to visit Bethlehem and pay their taxes. But to me, it makes sense that, again, if Rome, the way I see it now, that you go all the way to Grant's tomb, that's a Greco-Roman structure. I mean, to me, I think there's a good chance that could be Roman. So if Rome extended out to the Americas, well then, what if the population was as big as it is today? Right? Like, why wouldn't it be as big as it is today? Because if you really think about it, if you do like the kind of math between like how over thousands of years, the way people reproduce, how many people would be there? I mean, obviously you can get mathematicians like people like Fomenko. If they did that kind of math, then I think that, yeah, you would have a big population. And you know what they always say? They say that when, let's just say you're less likely to have ancestors because people die in childbirth and people die young back in the old days. Well, then you'd probably have more kids, not less. Right? And as we've often said that children were a blessing to people forever until recently when they're a burden on people. So there's no reason why that they would not have tried to have as many offspring as we can. Read your Bible. They're all trying to have as many kids as they can. They all want sons. They all want sons who are going to take over or get to be their heirs, do all the things. Yeah, it's likely that the population was really big. And then one day, the mountains melt like wax, and then there was not a lot of people.
Yep.
There was basically about none, almost. Maybe a small remnant lasted through it.
Yep. Oh, and by the way, if anybody lives near catacombs, email me, demonracers@gmail.com. I will love to go check things out, because now I'm totally going to go. I'm so serious. I totally want to go, and I want to go look and see if any of those skeletons have, like, lacking the presence of canine teeth, or have unusual canine teeth, or maybe have unusual shaped skulls, or potentially have, like, dog or animal looking bones or unusual bones. Now I'm totally gonna go explore my new.
You know what? I changed my mind. I'm gonna show the rest of the video because I feel like that we had a nice clean break in there, and we can maybe see if there's anything else we want to bounce up. Because it's a good video because I think it does elaborate on like that. We all know about the Paris catacombs. Well, at least most people do, I think, in this community, but we don't know about the other ones.
Which reveals these Paris catacombs were merely the tip of quite an extensive shaft. As we see hidden mass grave sites like these all around the world, like in Odessa, Ukraine, home to the largest catacombs in the world. 2,500 kilometers of tunnels dug into limestone bedrock dating to about the 17th century. Also used as a quarry and never officially to store bones of the deceased, but the majority of these tunnels haven't even been explored yet. Documentation of these catacombs is extremely limited, almost like they didn't want anyone to know what's down there, with large areas even being off limits to the public. Rumors claim that up to 1 million bodies may be buried down there, but on record, there's none, which is kinda odd given they're officially called the Odessa Catacombs halfway around the world. The Basilica and Convent of San Francisco, a cathedral in Lima, Peru, has its own network of catacombs underneath. And again, what do we see here? Human bones arranged in a decorated manner, eerily similar to the ones in Paris, kinda like they were built as an award, a trophy, or accomplishment of some sort. Estimated to hold at least 25,000 bodies, with some claiming up to 70,000, or so we're told, as these haven't been explored much either, with many smaller catacombs under other churches in the surrounding area, all believed to be connected, possibly bringing the body count of this network into the hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, but just speculation. The Lima catacombs weren't even publicly rediscovered until 1943, despite starting construction in 1546. Now, why put so much effort into designing yet another artistic mass gravesite just to keep it hidden for hundreds of years? Just like the Brno ossuary in Czech Republic, again under a church and rediscovered as recently as 2001, despite being used in the 18th century, and this one has an estimated 50,000 bodies, but as always, it could be more. Organized in the fun geometric patterns we see everywhere, almost like the same group of people did this around the world. And like, why? Why put in so much artistic architectural design made of human remains into an underground crypt that no one is ever supposed to see? Allegedly constructed by your average 18th century quarrymen, because, you know, they all had degrees in advanced architectural design back then. Some sources even admit they appear to be arranged in a ritualistic manner, like the ones who built them were trying to achieve something more than just a gravesite. And what about those underground crypts they've been finding in places like New York City? Are there more of these hidden all around the world? St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna, Austria, catacombs with about 11,000 bodies. The catacombs of Rome, once said to host hundreds of thousands of the deceased, but have largely since been emptied. Under the Church of St. Paul's beneath the island of Malta, more catacombs. This list is endless. Almost always found directly under a church or cathedral. The obvious answer is they want to honor the dead by burying them under places of worship. Unless it was the churches that were strategically built on top of the catacombs. A perfect hiding spot for mass graves that nobody would accidentally stumble upon while keeping the majority of their known tunnels off limits to the public. These are just the ones we know about. There could be many more under major cathedrals in every city. So did all these places just happen to have body overpopulation issues in the past they solved by ceremoniously decorating underground caverns with skulls and femurs? And today, we're A-okay, despite global population skyrocketing. Or maybe there was something back then that resulted in a huge spike of bodies. Fires. Almost every single major city has had their own Great Fire that took place in the last 400 years or so. Try it out. Search up the Great Fire of your city name and you're almost guaranteed to find something. Great fires in every city, mass graves largely unexplored under their streets. Was there an old world, a lost civilization as recent as the 1700s that was wiped from the earth and intentionally hidden from records? Some mystery enthusiasts say yes. Before the Great Fires, there was rumored to be a great global empire that rhymes with barbarian. Ugh, I don't even know if I want to get into that. And who knows, maybe these catacombs are just totally innocent and none of this is true.
Rhymes with barbarian.
Bro, the one he was talking, the first one he talked about, as we took back the break after the break, 2,500 kilometers, or no, did he say 2,200 kilometers of tunnels? What?
That's massive.
What? I mean, again, I think that it's funny because I like this guy's videos. Obviously, he doesn't see eye to eye with us as far as his perception, but obviously he's asking the questions like that obviously lead to the conclusions we'll have. But to me, again, obviously one of my favorite subjects, as you guys all notice at this point, the tunnels. Just the idea that there's that much tunnels where they supposedly carved into this limestone bedrock 2,200 kilometers of tunnels? Why? And then they can't even find the bones in there?
Doesn't make sense. I don't know, man.
I mean, gosh, it's like the mysteries that are in the subterranean part of this earth are just, I mean, again, I just don't think we're ever going to know. But I mean, to me, that is such a smoking gun, right? There's a lot of smoke coming from inside the earth, no pun intended. And you have all those places. Yeah, like, again, this is reminiscent of when my first kind of guilty pleasure conspiracies that I like to show ancient aliens. And so it really did resonate with me when they were showing that, okay, you have pyramids here, you have pyramids here, you have pyramids here, you have pyramids here. We're told these people really had no contact with each other. And yet it does seem like, based on the architecture, the iconography, the different kind of statues, the same gods that they worshipped, that it looked like there was a time where, of the ancients, that there was some kind of connected civilization. And so, okay, so you have
doing that catacombic, like, or decorative of a bunch of dead bodies in all the different places around the world. Like, what a weird thing to do, in the beginning, and yet it's being done throughout the world.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. So if you had a one-off place, and you could say, oh, well, the French are a little bit weird, but of course the French. But again, it is interesting that they have 6 to 7 million bodies down there, and then that place, I guess, what did he say, was in Bosnia? I can't remember exactly what the place he said, but that was the place that had 2,200 kilometers worth of tunnels under the ground. Well, like, we only know that Paris has the most.
Well,
but as he rightly said, we don't know. We have no idea what's under the earth, and we don't know how many different catacombs could be under every other old world place. Every other world. I mean, like, there's old world cathedrals all over God's green earth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there's catacombs under all of them, what kind of secrets do those dead men who tell no tales, could they tell?
Man, I really just want to go look. I want to go see now. I want to go look at their skulls and see what they are. But imagine, like, what if the angels of the Lord were here and they were just, like, picking up the bodies and burying them or putting them in the catacombs?
Man, dude, I forgot to tell you. Maybe this is related a little bit. So I'm gonna tease this for a very hopefully maybe a live stream. Maybe it might just be a pre-recorded podcast. But Alpha Talks did a great video about the Book of Enoch, and so I've been really kind of digging back into some apocryphal text, and I want to talk. I'll probably talk about it on my upcoming live stream, which will probably be after you guys hear this, anyways. But I was really interested in. I think Bible Scribe was the first person who kind of mentioned it that I heard, was talking about the Gospel of Nicodemus or the Acts of Pilate. And that is a super, super fascinating book. The first 19 chapters is given like more, it's kind of given a bigger view of the trial of Jesus with Pilate, and obviously the way that they're trying to come at him. And then you have more things after the resurrection. The Jews are kind of conspiring, and they're paying off the Roman soldiers who were supposed to be watching the tomb. The Roman soldiers say an angel's the one who moved the stone away, and they were terrified, so they pay them not to talk. And eventually Jesus appears to Joseph of Arimathea, who was the one who purchased the tomb to put Jesus in. And it's real fascinating, but then you go to, I think, like chapters 20 to maybe 19 to like 28 or 29. It kind of focuses on Hades or hell, like talking with Satan, and he's pissed at Satan. And then you also have the story from when Jesus descended into the earth and he set the captives free. It's an awesome book. I said I kind of get chills even thinking about it, because the real interesting part was, in Matthew, when it talks about when Jesus was crucified, Matthew just makes this quick little verse about how, oh yeah, by the way, when this happened, people left the tombs and were like resurrected men, just walked around and people interacted with them. And that's the only thing the Bible says about this. But this apocryphal text actually mentions that in the town of Arimathea, where Joseph was from, that's where they were all at. And at one point, so I think Nicodemus and the Pharisees, like Caiaphas, and I forget what the other Pharisee's name was, but they're interviewing them. And Joseph is saying, yeah, these men who came out of the tombs, I think there was a famous story, I think in the beginning of the Gospels, that Simeon was one of the men who was in the temple, and he got to hold Jesus, and he could die because God had promised him that he would get to see the Messiah. And then it mentions that his son came out of the tomb there, and the tombs were emptied out there. And it mentioned that these men were like glorified men, and then they weren't speaking to anybody. They were just kneeling and praying. And eventually they went and talked to them, and they're the ones who told them what was happening in hell when Jesus came down there.
Interesting.
It's really fascinating, but I mean, the whole thing was just it's an amazing book. But then you get into like the stuff with Enoch, and then so if you read Enoch 1, it's all about like that God's going to go destroy all this stuff, and he's going to remake the earth. And I kept on thinking that, like, it's like, dang, it's like, it does kind of make you think like that. And when you see all those bones and everything, it's like, it just seems like, I don't know, it just seems like it's like evidence that obviously that time when Jesus was coming, and then the letters from the apostles all talking about Judgment Day coming. I mean, that's what Jude's talking about. That I think that's what people miss about, like, it's the real reason is why is Jude quoting from Enoch? It's because there's obviously all these prophecies about the Messiah coming. But then I think that you can see the apostles, and particularly in Jude, their focus is shifted to the return and what's going to happen when he returns. And that is why that Jude is quoting from Enoch. It's less about the angels being chained up, other than the fact that they're going to get judged too. It's not about giants and stuff like that. He's quoting it because what Enoch is it's a messianic apocalyptic text, because it's really about like when. That's why he was saying, like, that's why Enoch says that it's for a later generation. It's talking about the generation who's going to witness when the Lord comes with his tens of thousands of holy ones to purge out and judge the earth. That's why Enoch was quoting that, or that's why Jude was quoting Enoch, is because they were about to witness that. And maybe the catacombs are evidence that it all happened. It was all true.
Dude, it's so interesting. Such a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah. Let's watch it. Let's check out a couple more videos. We'll shift gears. I'm trying to think which one was. Oh, we'll maybe switch to a pretty interesting video. This is some important news, potentially.
Are we just becoming China? Is that the plan here? Just mass surveillance on everybody? Recently, I was just in China, and some of what I saw was pretty good. Some not so good. Okay, this is where we're headed, except without the nice trains and without the free healthcare. We're talking about the creation of a biometric surveillance state with predictive algorithms. Quote, a new report shines light on contracts with tech company Palantir, which would create data profiles of Americans to surveil and harass them.
We're doing it. We're doing it. And I'm sure you're enjoying this as much as I am. Let's not talk to analysts about the burden of being right. Our burdens of investing in ontology, our burdens of actually looking at the math. Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world. and when it's necessary to scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
Except here, the enemy is literally the American people. I tweeted this out the other day saying that it should be very alarming that the same company that's tracking terrorists abroad is now tracking us at home. Starting to feel like maybe they think we're the enemy. What are your thoughts?
Brian, what say you?
It's coming. That's what I'd say. It's coming. And I would say they've been watching us for a while because they want to control the narrative and they want to control what is spoken about the people that wear the little hats, and they want to control all the things that are in the media, because control is witchcraft. Okay, that is witchcraft, by the way, just so you guys know. Like it's called arts and crafts because it's from magic arts and witchcraft. Okay, so like when you're crafting something, you're bending something to your will rather than relying on the will of God to allow it to take place. You are manipulating it to your will. That's witchcraft. So, this is just a deeper form of witchcraft integration, as they're monitoring you and they're just going to be trying to find ways to control you. That's what I say.
You know what? Speaking of witchcraft, though, Brian, and of course, I feel like we're really on this podcast. We're on the pulse of what's happening, right? There's a reason why I've been getting so invested into the Tolkien stuff, and I bring it up on most every podcast. Because do you know what the Palantir is, Brian?
Yeah, it's the dude named a lot of his companies actually after things from the J.R. Tolkien universe.
Yeah, this is the Palantir right here.
Yeah, he named a lot of things from that. The dude that runs Palantir, he's like super involved in Tolkien.
So yeah, I would say that you're not wrong about your idea of this being witchcraft. I mean, like, look at that thing. Like, that's what the Palantir is. It's a seeing stone, which of course makes sense that when they're trying to surveil people, that's what they named the company after.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, evil.
It's all about witchcraft. It's all about control, monitoring. It's witchcraft. I mean, your phone is called it's a screen. It's called a phone screen, but the word screen comes from the word scrying. Scrying means to peer into something to get visions. It's a witchcraft term. That's where we get the word screen from. It's so demonically infused at this point. It's like witchcraft and technology are almost one and the same.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's really eerie when he was showing China, because it's funny because like when we had Max Powers on, we were showing that crazy city in China that looked super advanced. And I guess what James Lee rightfully said was like, China does have that side of them, but they do have, I mean, from what I can tell now, maybe we have crumbling infrastructure here, and they seem like they're investing in the places they live. But that being said, showing all those cameras going every direction, that's some 1984 stuff. That is some terrifying stuff, that the way that the weight of the state could be smashed upon the people when, it's like, I know on people in this space, and we're often not sure what we can talk about. And we do our best to, again, like if you guys like the uncut stuff, obviously you go to Patreon. I'm not exactly sure what I can say over there. We're not exactly sure what we can say on YouTube either. But when it comes to the level of what we're told about China, that you could really, really face some serious consequences, like legal consequences. And the idea that could come here, I mean, I think that obviously we should be, aware enough to know that it could. I know a lot of people say, oh, that'll never happen here. But yeah, the Patriot Act stuff, I mean, this is obviously a continuation of that. Obviously, a lot of people like Trump. But yeah, the Real ID stuff, obviously this kind of stuff, he's partnering with the people who used to work, the guy, what was the CEO from Oracle? Was that Larry Ellison?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 3-letter agency guy. That's not good. That's not good. So it is, again,
think about
two wings of the same bird, right?
Yeah. think about how much of this stuff breaks your spirit. Like, people don't realize, like, it's like China didn't become the way it is with that monitoring without their spirits being broken. Like, their spirit is broken in a lot of ways. It is so oppressed. Like, they are so overwhelmingly oppressed. So it's like, you know, I got on that Red Note app for a minute, and like my channel immediately got blocked because I said stuff about religion. And the Chinese people, I went on a live on that Red Note app, and I went on a live, and the Chinese people were like, oh, don't say those words, don't say those words. And they were like, I'm like, what words? And they're like, you said TikTok, you can't say the T word, TT, you know. And I said TikTok on their Chinese app, and so apparently if you say TikTok on Red Note, they block you. And you're like, what? And there was other words I said. I said government. And they said government. And they're like, don't say that word. Don't say that word. The word with the G, they're like, do not say that word on the live broadcast. You will get blocked. You're being monitored right now. And they were telling me, there was like a channel. I went on this public channel to go live with a bunch of different people. But I said government, and I said TikTok, and I said a few different words, and they were like freaking out. And then I said something, they asked me a question like, what do you think about, you know, this or this? They actually asked me like a hypothetical question. They're like, would you save your mom or your wife in a situation, like some weird hypothetical question they were saying. And I said, I derived it, connected it to the Lord. You know, my response is, well, you know, my dad's responsibility would be to my mom, and my responsibility would be to my wife, you know. And so like I answered it in accordance to like a biblical principle thing and avoided their question. But because I started saying like biblically based stuff, they were like, oh, no, and they cut me off the live. And then the person's like, we can't have him talking on the live. They're like, and this is like a Chinese popular app, they're like, we can't have him talking, he's too big of a risk. And I was just talking about like ethical principles related from the Bible, but for some reason that was like monitored and taken down. And it's like all those people,
scary.
Yeah, all those people, their hearts and their emotions and their thoughts, it's like they live their little life, they live their cookie cutter life, they operate their cookie cutter way, they do exactly what the government says, they don't look outside the box, they don't look outside the window, they are totally and utterly controlled. And it's like, and anybody that comes through questioning the narrative and looking outside the box, sure, it makes their society successful in a lot of ways, but their souls are so crushed and trapped. They don't question the narrative, they don't question anything going on around them, they're totally under control. And it's like, dude, that's what they want to do with us. They don't want us questioning the narrative. They don't want us thinking about things outside the box. They don't want us looking into stuff that we shouldn't be looking into. And imagine when the world gets to the point where we can't do that. If it does get to that point, like, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be so terrible.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, kind of on that note, guys, we're going to end the YouTube portion of the podcast. If you guys really appreciate you guys hanging out with us, if you guys want to watch the rest of this, please check out the link below for the Patreon. Appreciate all you guys who are already on there and all your support. Appreciate you guys who bought a shirt. Again, so I got some new ones. I got my new ones because I have to order them too. And if you guys are worried about the delays and how long it takes, it's like, this is not Amazon. These are made to order, so they have to be printed and they have to be shipped. And yeah, we don't have Prime on jtfollowsjc.com yet. but I appreciate you guys supporting me. You guys, obviously, all you guys members in the chat. We love you guys dearly. God bless.
Bye.
Everyone left me. Everyone deserted me. Jesus was always there. When everyone hated me and walked away, Jesus never walked away.